in our today's discussion, we'll get a number of points in a single lecture, because all these points are actually having a kind of connection. Like, we'll talk about the mitochondria, its structure, its function, what is cellular respiration, aerobic respiration, anaerobic respiration, electron transport chain, ATP synthesis. We'll talk about the porins. What are porins in the mitochondria? What is semi-autonomous term? What does it mean? What does it stand for? And further, we'll talk about F1 particles and etc. So in short, one lecture is supposed to have number of points, and all these are actually interrelated, and these all points are actually supposed to help you out in a very simple and easy way. So what I need from you guys right now is just your concentration. Just concentrate. The very first point, mitochondria. We know the powerhouse of the cell, responsible to synthesize ATP. How? We'll know about the how a moment later. First of all, let's know the structure of the mitochondria. It is actually a membrane bounded organelle, not having a single membrane but double membrane, two membrane. External outer membrane, internal inner membrane. The outer membrane is actually having a free kind of permeability. It is not selective. It allows all the small particles, but if the particle size increases a bit, means it is getting a larger size. For that, there are special pores, special channels called as porins, which are actually proteins. So via those channels, through those channels, then those large particles will get into the mitochondria. So shortcut about the outer membrane. Then we move towards the inner membrane. Inner membrane is having a kind of folds. Those folds are called as cristae. Now these folds are responsible to increase the surface area. Now if you just stretch this, it will cover a very larger area, but if you just fold it in a smaller area, again it is supposed to cover a very big area, a very large area. So because of these folds, area will be increased. Now what is the importance of this increased area? You will get the importance of this in this portion, where we will talk about the ETC, electron transport chain, or energy production. So in short, increased surface area, increased energy production. It is selecting the substances, then particular substances are supposed to be allowed. Not all substances can move through the inner membrane. So it has special ability that is selectively permitting the substances. So selective permeation is available hereby. Well, now I told you guys that this folding of the inner membrane is called cristae, and the internal portion formed, or the space or the area that is being covered by the inner membrane, is called as matrix, in which there is the nucleus of the mitochondria. Okay, our cell also has mitochondria, nucleus. Cell has nucleus, but the mitochondria also has nucleus. Mitochondrion also has nucleus, and in short, mitochondria also have nucleus. Well, coming to the point, I just told you people about the English of mitochondrion and mitochondria. Mitochondrion is singular, mitochondria is plural. Well, so coming to the point, don't go here and there. A moment earlier, I just committed a mistake in English, so I just rectified that mistake. So what is the mistake? With the singular, we are using has. So with the plural, we are using have. So I used has with the plural. That was a mistake. So rectification is that. So mitochondria have their own nucleus, whereas cells have their own nucleus. Our cells have their own nucleus, whereas mitochondria have their own nucleus. Mitochondria have their own nucleus. So what is the next point? That is circular DNA. Again, our cell has a nucleus where there is the DNA available, but the mitochondria, they also have nucleus. They also have DNA, but the DNA is of circular shape, and there are certain enzymes available called as ATP synthase F1 particles, also called F1 particle, and certain granules are available, and ribosomes are available, but these ribosomes are 55S. Type is 55S. So now what we got here: nucleus, DNA, and ribosomes. Proteins can be synthesized, DNA is available, and nucleus is available. Controlling body is the nucleus. So now because of this DNA, because of this enzymes, because of these this nucleus and ribosomes, the mitochondria is able to synthesize to large extent its own stuff, its own DNA, its own proteins, because of which because of this ability that it is synthesizing its own proteins, its own DNA, this organelle, mitochondria, is called as semi-autonomous organelle. Semi-autonomous organelle. I hope you're getting the point. Semi-autonomous means a half, not complete. When a person is autonomous to do something. Okay, so here mitochondria is free to do something like that. It is responsible, it is free to form its own proteins, because of which this organelle is called semi-autonomous organelle. Why? Because it is synthesizing its own proteins. So this is called semi because of certain reasons. Why? The reason is that if a cell is supposed to, if a cell is supposed to synthesize 100 proteins, so cell will synthesize entire proteins, 100 out of 100. But if it is in the case of the mitochondria needs 100 proteins. Out of 100, it will synthesize 90% proteins. The remaining 10% cannot be synthesized by the mitochondria, due to which this organelle is called semi-autonomous. Means it can synthesize and it cannot synthesize. It can do both the jobs. So that's why this organelle is called as semi-autonomous organelle. I hope you got the structure in which we talked about the outer membrane and the inner membrane. Now let's come towards the function or functions. Simple, it stores calcium. Very interesting function. Apoptosis or apoptosis. This word can be pronounced in two ways: apoptosis or apoptosis. Now this is a programmed cell death. Now if there is a kind of death being seen of the cell, so that death of the cell, if it is programmed, that is because of the apoptosis, because of the mitochondria. So apoptosis is actually called as a programmed cell death. And next, it's a very important function, because of which it is called as the powerhouse of the cell, is the production of the energy, heat and energy. Well, energy, heat is another form of energy, a form of energy. Now a question arises: how, you may be asked questions, not a question, how the ATP is synthesized? Question number one. Number two, how cellular respiration takes place. Number three, what is electron transport chain? Now this portion is supposed to cover all these three questions. Number first question, how the ATP is synthesized. Number two question, how cellular respiration takes place. Number three, what is electron transport chain. So we will start from the cellular respiration, then we will come towards the ATC, then we will come towards the electron ATP. So you will get all these now just, okay, a moment later you will get all these answers. What is cellular respiration? Cellular stands for cell. Respiration is when you take a food and you break that, because of which you get energy. The breakdown of the food to release the energy is respiration. So if we break down the food and from that energy is obtained, this is called respiration. If this kind of breakdown mechanism takes place in the cell, then this is called as cellular respiration. A very easy concept, okay? Very easy concept. So in the entire discussion, we will be talking about the breakdown of the food in the cell, and due to which energy will be produced or synthesized. This is our main point of the cellular respiration. I hope you got the term cellular respiration. Now let's go deep into the topic. As we take the food, in that food several nutrients are available. Those nutrients are supposed to go through and are being absorbed in the blood. Suppose one of the nutrients is the glucose, that from the blood will move into the cell. Now this is the entire cell in which we have stuff, but I've just mentioned cytoplasm and mitochondria in the entire cell. Cytosol, the soluble part of the cell, where this glucose will come, that glucose will be metabolized, glycolysis will take place. Now due to which what will happen, say G6, it is actually a glucose which will be metabolized into pyruvate. This metabolism will be anaerobically, means anaerobic respiration will take place. In the absence of oxygen, the food will be broken down and energy will be produced. Such kind of respiration in which oxygen is not used but the food is broken down and the energy is produced is called as anaerobic respiration. Respiration, you take the food, you break that down into pieces and energy is produced. This is called respiration. If no oxygen is used, anaerobic. If oxygen is used, aerobic. Now this is occurring in the cell, that's why this is called as anaerobic cellular respiration. I hope you got the concept. Now what will happen then? This pyruvate will be converted into acetyl-CoA. That will then move towards the mitochondria, where acetyl-CoA will undergo citric acid cycle, Krebs cycle. This is actually these are the names given to the single cyclic process. TCA cycle, tricarboxylic acid cycle. Now through this cyclic pathway, what will happen? Carbon dioxide is produced. Another thing is that NAD, FAD, they will be converted into NADH and FADH. Now H is actually a kind added, and along with that there will be electrons also available. Electrons plus protons plus carbon dioxide, three things are produced hereby through this cyclic pathway: electrons, protons, carbon dioxide. Got? Very simple. So what is happening? NAD will be converted into NADH. The protons will be attached with this, along with the electrons will be carried towards the electron transport chain, a chain that is responsible to transport the electrons. A chain responsible to transport the electrons is called electron transport chain. This chain is available in the internal membrane of the mitochondria. So what will happen? NAD will be converted into NADH. Now this NADH is a kind reduced NAD, reduced NAD. Now what is the reduced NAD? Simple. We know about this point very well. Oxidation is addition of oxygen. A reduction is removal of oxygen, addition of hydrogen. Oxygen removed, hydrogen added, electrons added. Okay. So now what is happening here? By NAD is converted into NADH. NADH is what? Hydrogen is added. So it is actually a process called as reduction. So that's why the product is called as reduced NAD. Also called as reduced NAD, reduced FAD. Now these two will carry the protons and electrons to the electron transport chain, a chain responsible to transport the electrons. Now these electrons or protons will be provided hereby, and at the end what will happen is they unload the protons and electrons. They will be back converted into NAD and FAD, and those electrons will start moving from one electron transport portion to the another. Means electron will be transported by a chain. So this will be a kind of chain, a kind of transport of the electron. So this is called as what? Electron transport chain, a chain responsible to transport the electrons. In the meanwhile, as electron is moving via this chain, protons will be moving outward, and they will be a kind accumulating in the intermembrane space between the two membranes. Here, what will happen? Protons will accumulate. Now as their concentration rises, what will happen? Here another pump is available, ATP synthase enzyme, F1 particles. They are supposed to pump in the protons. Now these protons will come in. As they are coming inward inside the matrix, oxygen is waiting for these protons, and we know when hydrogen and oxygen combine together they will make water, and the way they are coming inward is very a kind of gushing sound, gushing waves there. So it is a very strong type of movement. So due to which what will happen, a kind of energy is produced that is converting ADP into ATP. So ATP is a kind produced because of this strong movement of the hydrogen into the matrix. This is responsible to convert ADP into ATP. Simple point, as the hydrogen is moving in, it is supposed to combine with oxygen, and in the meanwhile this movement is actually responsible to synthesize or convert ADP into ATP. Energy is produced, approx 32 or 34 ATPs are produced. Now this is up to you guys, whether it is 34 or 36 or 32. Comment that in the comment box. How many ATPs are produced in this point via electron transport chain? So in short, ATP are actually synthesized here via electron transport chain. This is the mechanism how ATP is synthesized via electron transport chain. And what is cellular respiration? Aerobic cellular respiration, anaerobic cellular respiration, aerobic cellular respiration. So we talked about all these points in a very brief to the point and easy way. I hope you got all. If still you have confusion anywhere, feel free to ask us in the comment box, and don't forget telling your friends about Dr. UUT lectures.